Well, by now you must be admiring my bow ties. I know I like them myself. How do you think this one looks? I know my friends think it looks so great with my green stripe, but I'm really into bow ties. I'm a bit British. Even though I'm really conscious of the fact that I need to be decolonized. But within that concept, there is this affinity to dress and deportment, aesthetics, etc. So I invest in ties. And I trust you don't get distracted by the put together. But anyway, it's good to have you again on this great evening as you view another broadcast. So some of you have been sending some comments in the chat, and I shouldn't say chat, on the what is it, on the YouTube, and I really appreciate that. So please do that. And there's an email. The email is also there. It's Nationmind 2018, 2021 at gmail.com. 2021 at gmail.com. So send me a line. I want to know who you are, what you're thinking, how appropriate the program is, the broadcast is, and if I'm really coming to the public to meet their needs, because that is my objective, to meet the needs of the public. And wherever you are, whatever country, how appropriate it is for you. So as we go along, I want to switch a little bit from that word disappointment. I know you did a lot, and I realize you've got a lot. But I want to look a bit, keeping with the family and relations. But I want to look at it from the concept, the perspectives of family dynamics, and what that represents. It does represent the issue of relations and interactions and the planning and the forwardness. So I wanted to go slowly here. So this will take me a couple of broadcasts. So you have to keep connected Monday after Monday, or day after day, or Tuesday after Tuesday. Whatever day you press play, that's fine. And by the way, I hope you're subscribing. So we know that you belong to this network that we are building here on this social platform. So perspectives of family dynamics. It's a very interesting concept in terms of how we grow as into that word called family. You know, many years ago, and let's say maybe 50 years ago, the definition of family was not the same definition that it has today. People were talking about mother and father, or parents with children in the home, and that was what family was concerned about. But today, it's people, not parents, just people in a home coming together with commonalities of interest. And that's where we have gotten in terms of the continual, can I say, advancement of intellectualism, socialism, pluralism, all the isms causing us to define a new way forward. So for me, seeing my age at this stage, you see all this gray hair represents age. I'm going to really look at that collective body of persons within a home, establishing one concept of protocols that establishes government or governance through adult authority. Notice my word, because I'm saying that because I know there is a type or purpose, a structure of the family that is sibling-headed. Most of the other structures or types are done by adults. So I want to measure principally at the adult-headed family, whether it's going to be nuclear, extended, blended, single parent, what those others going down. We want to look at that today. I'm not going to be extrapolating and analyzing the structures, but I just want to be aware of the structures as I go along, so I can meet your need, because I do know where you fit and how you fit in your future. And for now, one of the things that's important to start with is the nurturing concept of parent and child that begins to create that inertia for family identity. We want to have that relationship, And that nurturing starts off with that B word, breastfeeding, not the birth word. The child is born, yes, but breastfeeding. I am not the medical person to breastfeeder expertise, but I do know as a father and seeing how my children grew and knowing this even from my own mother, breastfeeding is essential. Now, as a psychologist, it's important for me to establish that that is one of the key things that we use in terms of identifying what is called the attachment theory. Because actually it's literal, where the child is attached to the mother through breastfeeding, that sucking. And that sucking motion and that whole concept there of sucking brings out a lot of, develops and stimulates a lot of the hormonal activity and brings the brain into that space where there is a greater identifying, notice my word, I'm using the present continuous, not of relations with, so that the child becomes much more attached to, and that word attached creates the opportunity for security. So the child becomes more secured when the child is breastfed, and the child learns that heartbeat and that warmth and that cuddling in the mother's arms. Now, it's important also to make reference to fathers. You also must have opportunity of that holding and that cuddling. Now, you don't have outward breasts that has any lactose, any milk there, but you do have a heartbeat. And so it's good sometimes to put the child on your chest and let the child hear your heartbeat and let the child hear your voice. So we want to create that continuum there of attachment, but that establishes for the future as the child develops that soundness of character and personality in terms of not causing them to be anxious or avoidant or disorganized, but to come into that place where they can be adaptable to the environment and work in sync and to foster very, very important relations with their parents. And of course, they may also have siblings. So it is that is a concept, because there are people out there who do not want to breastfeed and who think there is an alternative. Of course, there's a bottle, of course, there's formula. But I want you to know that breastfeeding is not just about feeding the child with the breast, or rather the baby or the infant with the breast. It is about attachment. And that theory by Paget continues to find its way in our human development. It continues to breathe and continues to live and continues to forge us into that personality that we are. So I want to encourage people who have young babies, please, and who are about to have babies, to consider the nursing factor. That is so important, not just for the nutrition of the child, but also for the let me put it this way, the psychosocial context of that child in terms of building trust. And when we look at that, we can refer to Erickson's 8 stages of psychosocial development. And that first stage, trust versus mistrust, comes out of that whole thing of attachment and working with the mother and working with the family and coming into the reality as against the non-acceptance or the lack of rejection to belonging. And so it is important for us to note that nurturing starts there, and then of course it continues as you work out that attachment concept and working together and helping the child to learn how to be trusted. So that we have to learn, and I dealt with some of this earlier in the broadcast last year where we did parenting, that we need to keep in that communication context, working with the child, talking to, asking questions, hearing their voice, sharing yours, helping them to make decisions by clarifying issues within their minds. And those things are very important. Now, one of the things that we have to look at very squarely in terms of the dynamics, of family dynamics here, is the generational aspect. We have to realize that we as parents, we as two individuals who are called mother and father, have a history from our own parents and grandparents and great-grandparents. It's important to note that how those generational dynamics, let me use that word again, I hope you don't think I'm repeating it, but or concepts or principles have filtered down to us. That, you know, the Bible talks about onto the first and onto the fourth generation, that which it was dealing with iniquities there. And I can really appreciate that a lot of those ancestral things that come through the granny and great granny and all the way to me are definitely in my DNA. And I have to learn now, as I meet with another person who has a different DNA because of a different generational experience, we have to learn how to work that. And so it's important to observe the generational context in terms of family dynamics. One of the things that we have to look at too is the whole issue of identity. How has my great-great-great-grandparents identified their name and their personalities within a community, one, not just within the home, but within the community. We're going to come there. So the things that they do, what they celebrate, what they don't celebrate, what their belief systems are, how they have established protocols and traditions and cultures, all these things are relevant in terms of family dynamics. Why is Dr. Nice talking about family dynamics after talking about disappointment? Because, you see, I was trying to link the context of disappointment with expectations, and I realized that I need now to help you to sit back a little bit and breathe and say, hey, I really shouldn't blame myself, because what I have to do is to work out all that has been done and all has been given me, through the generational, which some people want to use the word ancestral. But it is important for us just to note that we must look at it and see what's happening. What would the granny do? What did great granny do? What did my parents do? How they did it? Let me just share one thing. I remember baking a cake for my mother, and she was in the kitchen with me. This was over 40 years ago. So I got a recipe book, a very famous recipe book, and I used it. And my mother was quarreling all through me making this cake, because I didn't keep the traditions of what she considered as the best, what she called the best sponge cake. I did not use 6 eggs, half a pound of butter, half a pound of flour, that regime. I used 2 eggs, a couple of third of flour, and I think it was about 4 ounces or 2 or 3 ounces of butter. And the sugar. I use a cup instead of a half cup. Yes. So my cake was not good at all. I mean, because you see, generationally, that was what a cake represents. Now I come with a recipe book that represented that particular time and season, which was not what she had learned, and she could not accept it. It's so you find now, how do I fit in to a kitchen and work with my mother amiably, comfortably, when she is not going to be working comfortably because I am not doing the things the way she did it or when her granny did it, and that's how it's done. Now, as I said, that was a generation ago, 40 years plus. Imagine now me doing something with a modern person who is in their teens and wondering the same thing. How are you doing that? Why are you mixing that so? Oh, better yet, why are you using a spoon to beat your butter and your sugar to get the batter for your cake? There's something called KitchenAid. And I remember some time ago, actually, I was making what we call in the Caribbean pudding. It's like a pudding. Actually, it's like a pudding. Some countries call it pudding, with grated cassavas and sweet potatoes and pumpkin. And you blend that up with some raisins and sugar and spices. And I was there wondering, when am I going to get to make this dish, this pole? Because I had to grate the cassava. And I said, wow, this is going to take so long to grate cassava. And then all of a sudden, I heard a voice saying, but you have a blender. So here was I, trying to keep what I had learned 40 years before from my mother, who would sit with a grater and grate that cassava and grate that pumpkin and grate that sweet potato. And that was the imagery. That's what I knew. But here am I now, years later, being reminded that I do have a blender. Please, I have a blender. So I washed, chopped, and blended my cassava. And it came out beautiful. So how am I working transitions into the generational concepts? How am I working transitions in all other facets, whether it's dress, whether it's food, it's the commodities of the day, whether we kneel down to scrub the floors or whether we use electric scrubber or whether we have Swiffers or mops. There are so many dynamics here that needs to be looked at and re-identified in terms of going forward, so that we won't have that constant trauma within our homes, badgering and wars, but we will come into that concept of relationships, identifying with the newness of our time and our season. So that generationally, it is important for us to review where we have come from in context of where we are now. And of course, by the next 5-10 years, we may have more than something better than a blender, or something faster than a Ninja, or one of those gadgets, or we might go beyond the KitchenAid blend mixer. And so we have to see the continual development scientifically and socially also, because once science changes, social fabric changes, because the things that we will take a longer time doing and having more fun together, it's less time doing and less fun, because it's all quick. It's also quick. Everything is quick. The microwave, the fryers, everything is so quick, so that you don't spend that kind of quality time together because you are now in a quick set mood. So generations have advanced into a more intellectual perspective, a much more economically wise perspective, which is again threatening that context of relations. So we have to work that. I want to just add here, in terms of the imaginative, it is one thing to be generative, but how does generations move forward without imagination? Because within that imagination, there are ideas that becomes innovative. And through initiatives, we are able to bring new products on the market, new products to your home. So it is important for us to recognize, in terms of the perspectives of family dynamics, we have to allow our children present to imagine. Does that sound good? I wonder if my friends here will say yes. Because, and I'm saying imagine now, not in terms of daydreaming, which is kind of akin to that, but it's about thought processes that you have, that where you are beginning to see different developments of different scientific, economical, social, environmental issues. How things can be done differently, how we can make something to fit in, how the light bulb can change from one length to width, or we can have different kind of chairs, or we can have a different kind of car. As I said, car. We are now having electric charged cars. It's no longer going to the gas station and getting some petrol. No, you go to the gas station, yes, but you go by some pole with a plug, and it goes from your car to that pole, and you sit there for X amount of time, and your car is charged up and your engine is ready to go. That came out of imagination, which became innovative, and with some initiative, it goes out into the market and becomes a product. So when we were older, imagination was something we were not encouraged to do. What is daydream? And that's why I said daydreaming is akin to that. You're daydreaming. We're thinking about, hey, go and do something. Go on. No, it is all good to do. But it was important to find out from the child what is in that little head of yours. And I say child. Because by the time the child gets 5, the child is beginning to find not just autonomy, but intuition, that context of being self-sufficient already and learning to work with some innovation, ready to begin to produce. The child at 5 does have a brain to be productive. The parent may not understand that and want to invest in it, but I want to encourage you in terms of building relations one with the other and establishing that context of togetherness within the home. We can do something better. So here you are saying, wash the clothes. Now I would think of you washing clothes and going straight to the tub in the back of the house, filling it with water, throwing some soap in it, taking your hand and making sure the granules dissolve, put in the clothes, let it soak. It must soak for some hours. And then we go and we joke. Somebody had some thought, and we found that, excuse me, we have something called a washing machine. Today there's several types of that. But there was some thought that came up, and those thoughts may not just be adult thoughts, they can also be very strategic children's thoughts. But what it does is to bring you into a place where you can begin to appreciate the child's intellectualism and work with that child and cause relations, the bonding between you and child. I remember I heard about a conference years ago in the United States of America where children between the ages of, I think it was 6 and 12, were encouraged to have innovative ideas and came to this conference. There was an exhibition also and exhibited their creations, exhibited their innovations, exhibited those new appliances, those new things. And some of them did things with wind and caused water to go further, something with irrigation, how to separate gray water from white water and black water. Yes, children, not children who are just trying to be bright or to go through an education system. Children who are working because they are imaginative. And I want to encourage that today. I want to encourage that because especially at times from a generational perspective, coming out of the 40s, 50s, we were not as a people, and I'm speaking especially within the Caribbean people, not to think. And up to now, we are not as advanced and as aggressive in our thinking because there are not many initiatives that are coming out of this part of the world. And we need to do something with that. I sit down sometimes and I am so sometimes disturbed when you look at the television and see people taking little things and making those advertisements from another country. Take wire and bend it and hang this, and you have clothes hang on here. And I said, why somebody down the road, or somebody in the next street, or the next village, or somebody in our islands can do these innovative things? But because it's our generation, because where we came from, and in this part of the world, the Caribbean, our base is slavery, coming as indentured slaves, coming as slaves from the continent. And so that therefore we were not encouraged to have a bigger mind. It's a small mind. And so that generational context of growth. So today now, where there's this boom of social media, boom of intellectualism, boom of science, nobody wants to get back down there. Everybody wants change. And so we are having issues even within families with parents who still say, let's do it this way, and children say, it can be done better. And some children that will come next 5 years saying, this is the better way. So there are concepts of advancement. So in terms of family dynamics, we have to see it as an evolution, growing, working together, coming into newness, and bringing perspectives of change that are important to establish relations and synergies and harmonies within the home. I'm hoping that we are off to a good start here. I am trusting that we can develop this as we go along. And I want us not, as I close here, I want us not to be afraid of allowing your child to think. As a matter of fact, I want to encourage us adults to think and to be proactive in terms of how we can make a change for our future, how we can create new items, new commodities, and build our Caribbean and build our world, because we are influencing each other's nation. So until then, see you, and we will continue with perspectives of family dynamics. Dr. Nye saying, have a good week.